Your life has changed ever since you came in. I knew way back then that you was heaven sent, angel here on earth. I love your mama for your birth.
What's up, TV crew?
It's your man Braxton.
And your lady Tia. And today we are going to be doing our Table View Spotlight.
As you guys know, this is the opportunity for us to focus on those that we feel are impacting the culture in many different ways. And today we are welcomed by Myja Gary, who is a renowned host, speaker, and communications expert who advocates for women's leadership, Black voices, and diverse representation. As a pageant veteran, she is a former Miss North Carolina A&T State University, Miss Black Virginia USA, and a Miss Black USA. Through this platform, she advocates for women's leadership through mentorship, career readiness, and community building programs. In addition, Myja is a creator and host of Ask Myj, the podcast, an outlet where she shares inspirational stories, sheds lights on influential Black women in businesses, and discusses lifestyle, pop culture, and social trends that impact Black millennials. She has collaborated with major media companies, including BET, Fox Soul, and Revolt, and worked alongside many industry pioneers, including, but not limited to, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, Reverend Al Sharpton, Lisa Ray, and Vivica Fox. Currently, Myja is a corporate communications manager at a billion-dollar tech company where she leads human resource communications for over 7,000 employees. She is the first Black woman to lead HR communication at the company and is dedicated to helping increase representation of minority groups in the tech space. TV crew, please welcome Myja Gary. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you all?
We're doing good. We're excited for the weekend. I'm glad it's Friday. So
GIF. Okay.
Yes, thank God.
Made it.
Yes.
Well, Myja, I just want to share real quick. It truly is a pleasure to meet with you. I'm not sure if you noticed, but you were the Miss A&T when we were freshmen.
Yes.
At A&T.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, that was my first experience of an HBCU culture in general. And it was really, I really enjoyed seeing a Black woman be represented in such a positive way. And, you know, you really had an impact on the students, obviously for Black women on campus, but for Black men as well. So I just want to take the time to say thank you for your leadership. I give kudos to you.
And also you and y'all were my favorite. Y'all were my favorite king and queen.
Thank y'all so much. That really does mean a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. So can you describe to us some of the biggest hurdles you have experienced while increasing minority representation within the tech space?
Yeah, I think, I'm a Black woman advocating for Black women and, Black people. And I think just being a Black woman at the table has been, a hurdle, right? Like, I think, we are here to advocate for, bringing minorities into the tech space, but I am myself a minority.
Right.
And, I think I am also, an underrepresented voice, right? And so I think having my voice or making my voice matter at these tables in the tech spaces that are predominantly white, right? Predominantly white male, predominantly white women, at these leadership tables, having my voice be valued, having my voice matter, at these leadership tables is a hurdle, right? Yeah. And I think not just my voice, but getting them to understand the importance of the issues that I'm advocating for. So not only am I minority advocating, so trying to get my voice valued, but then the issues that I'm advocating for, getting people to care, right? Like getting these, in these predominantly white spaces and predominantly white leaders to care about the things that I'm advocating about, I think has been, some of the biggest hurdles. And then lastly, I would say, I think, imposter syndrome, we deal with that. And I tell people all the time, I talk so much stuff, right? Like I have so much inspiration and encouragement to give. And then when I get in these spaces, it's like, do I really belong? Yeah. And so I think it's hard, right? When you look around and I love advocating for these issues. I'm super passionate about, advocating for these issues, but sometimes being in those spaces and looking around and I'm the only person who looks like me is so tough. So I think finding that motivation to, keep going and remember why I'm here, and what I'm advocating for has really pushed me to keep going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. And I love what you touched on with imposter syndrome. I know that is one thing, at least I know I've dealt with where, once I get in the car and I close that door, I can play a little Boosie and, put my hat back on and talk the way I want to talk. But the second I roll up, I might have a little Ed Sheeran playing as I'm coming into work.
Yeah, you have to lower the volume.
Yeah, make it real low. So it's definitely a hurdle and a challenge. So I know that you do a lot of mentorship through various workshops that you put together. And one in particular I want you to discuss is the Slay Your Resume. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and the impact it had on women and more in particular, women of color?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think it's so important. Let me just give y'all some kudos, right? Some flowers here. I think it's so important to have these sorts of spaces and platforms where you are spotlighting people who, are making an impact. You yourselves are making an impact, but sometimes it's hard to put mentorship on your resume, right? Like it's hard to tell people, what you're doing as far as mentorship, because those spaces are so intimate, right? Like you are helping people. And I don't want to be shouting to the rooftops that this is what I did for somebody else.
Right.
So shout out to you. Kudos to you for creating these spaces and platforms, that folks can share their impact. But as far as Slay Your Resume, that was really special to me because the girl that I partnered with, she was actually Miss Winston-Salem State University while I was Miss North Carolina State University. And so those relationships are so special to me. If you ask any HBCU queen like that, like you don't mess with the HBCU queens. Right. That relationship is so special. And so she's let me get this right. She does diversity recruiting at Bank of America. And so her job is to recruit from HBCUs. Like that's her whole thing, which I mean, what better job to have in the tech space, recruiting from HBCUs. And so she's also partnered with a women's empowerment organization called the Female Quotient. And they're all about women's empowerment, women's leadership, advocating for women's leadership. And she does a lot of work with them. And so I partnered with them to do a resume workshop for HBCU women again. And so, like I said, that was special because, we started and met because, we were on a mission to empower, Black HBCU women students. And so to graduate college, kind of leave that life behind and still continue in that work of advocating for, Black women, advocating for Black women leadership, advocating for HBCUs is so special to me because of the impact that I can continue to have from, when I started in college. And so, yeah, it was really just about giving, tips and tricks for HBCU students who are, I guess, post-college, early career, getting ready to graduate college, looking for internships, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I think it had a huge impact. We had over, I can't remember, it was like 50 or 100 HBCU students. And we even had men. And so I think, that shows, that it was, impactful that a man was at a Slay Your Resume event. So yeah, very, very, very impactful, very special to me. Yeah.
That's great. That's really great. So you did stay HBCU alumni after they all as well do the resumes. So what are some key things that HBCU alums should focus on when preparing for life after college?
Ooh, okay, this is a good one. First, I think, one of the biggest things that I love and cherish about my HBCU is the network. When they say anytime, I'm at an event and we're talking about Aggies with North Carolina A&T, people are always like, Aggies are everywhere. Aggies are everywhere. Y'all are everywhere. Yeah. And I'm like, the network is just, it is huge. Like the Aggie network is global. Like we are everywhere. As annoying as that is, or when people make those jokes, like we're everywhere. And so I think it's so important to really immerse yourself into that Aggie network. Like, and I would say even beyond that, I love Aggies, A&T all day, but like get into just the HBCU network in general. Like I said, outside of A&T, outside of us Aggies and the Aggie Pride, I think all of our HBCU, alumni are dedicated to helping each other. And so I think building strong relationships and networking in that HBCU network is so important. And when I tell you these Black people from these HBCUs are in these crazy leadership positions that you wouldn't think of, let me tell you, the HR director, I'm just on LinkedIn researching, the HR director at the Shade Room is an Aggie. Stop playing. Yes, HR director is an Aggie. So when I say like these people are everywhere and they are ready to put us in these positions. Like they want to bring in more HBCU students into these positions. So I think first is, building your network, get involved in that network. Second is internships. Like, I think that's something I wish I could have done a lot more when I was in college. And even after, it's like intern as much as you can. I think that is a really, really good entryway into discovering what you like, the type of work that you like, the type of work that you don't like, the areas and the focuses that you want to get into. I think it's so important, to do those internships so you can get that sort of early career experience.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would say, so we'll talk about internships, building strong relationships, and networking. I would say, as cliche as it sounds, just to try things out. I think that also comes with, like, how I was talking about with the internships. I think just trying things, like, never get stuck. But like when you are graduating college, that is like the land of milk and honey. I know it's hard, right? It can get discouraging, but that is the time to just try things out. Really figure out, what you like to do. Again, figure out what you're passionate about, discover what you love. That's the time to travel, experience new things, experience new people. And I would just say, like, don't get stuck. Figure out, what you love, discover who you are, and truly try new things.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think it's critical to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
When you're graduating from your HBCU, and this is kind of leading me to my next question, but I know sometimes, like, you're in this bubble of Black culture, and it's wonderful, you love it, and then when you graduate, you're back out into the rest of the world, and sometimes as a challenge. And the best thing to do to get through it is to just get out there, try new things, to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So I know, obviously, we know that you went to A&T for your undergrad, but you also went to Georgetown to get your master's degree, which are both excellent schools that have a lot of history behind them. However, one's an HBCU and one is a PWI. What is that? I don't want to call it a crossover, but what is that experience like going from one to the other? Is there a big difference in culture? What does that look like?
Braxton, it's the complete opposite.
Really?
Exactly. Whatever HBCU is, a PWI is not. And that is not no shade. That's no shade. I love Georgetown. I would not change it for anything in the world. Like I got the experience because I wanted the opposite experience.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I do believe that HBCUs prepare you for the real world. I do believe that, our HBCU network is powerful, but I will say the outside world is not an HBCU. It's nothing like an HBCU. It's totally opposite. And so I think, there is something to be said about, how when we are at our HBCU, that is the family, that is the reunion, that is where you feel like you can just 100% be yourself. And I'm not saying that you can't 100% be yourself in the real world, but it takes time to get to that place where you're like, okay, I'm 100% myself. Because really 100% yourself is showing up to the corporate building, bumping Boosie with your hat on.
Yeah.
Right? That's you,
Yeah.
right? That's you.
Yep.
But it takes a while to really get to that point because in essence, there are some things that we are concerned about in terms of corporate, workplace and things like that. So I did want the opposite. I wanted to feel what it was like to, I wouldn't even say work in the real world, but just be outside of my HBCU. And I knew, and a lot of times I think, you can get so wrapped up in the HBCU culture that when you do start, that corporate life, it's a culture shock, because you come from this place where it's just you and other people who look like you. And then you get into an environment and there's nobody else at that job that looks like you.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the heck did I come from a place where everywhere I look, down the hall where I live, at the cafeteria, walking around campus, I mean, you are in this Black world, like it's a Black planet. And then you come out into the corporate workforce and it's the total opposite. And so that was kind of I wouldn't even say, I will say entryway into, being, at a tech company or in the corporate workforce, understanding that this is not going to be the HBCU life, and I think that's why, we all cherish it so much. That's why we do cherish, that HBCU experience, because you're not gonna get that nowhere else. You're not gonna get that nowhere else. So yeah.
One other question that I just thought of, the calf life is so critical, I think, to every HBCU. I'm just curious, like, do you still get fried chicken Fridays and fried fish at Georgetown?
Absolutely not. Well, so the thing is, so my graduate experience is a little different because at Georgetown we had a totally separate campus.
Okay.
So I actually wasn't on Georgetown's campus. We had a master's program campus that was downtown DC, and it was near Georgetown, but not there. So I never went to the CAF. You know, I didn't spend a lot of time on like the main campus. I was with the grad students in my grad program on our grad campus. So we didn't have no cafeteria. We had the restaurants outside of, you know, in the area. So we didn't have cafeterias. So I don't fried chicken Friday. But it also sounds a little racist. I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
Like, why y'all got fried chicken Friday? Why y'all need it? I don't know.
I know. Well, actually, at UNCG, I think they had like a fried chicken Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
WI. So I was very surprised that they had it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess white folks like, you know, fried chicken. And I mean, black people at PWI, so maybe they do like fried chicken, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Well, I love everything that you're talking about, and you know, you're really a leader in this aspect, especially when it comes to introducing the minority to these critical roles, especially within the tech space, and teaching them the skills of how to continue to move forward within their career. But I'm curious of who did that for you? Who are the people that you looked up to most, and who were some of your mentors and idols when you were a little girl or when you were a freshman at A&T? Who are some of those people?
Great. Gosh, these questions are really good. Okay, so first I will say, I think when I think of my parents, right? So I grew up in a military background. Both of my parents had kids really young. My dad, I don't believe, has a degree. I think my mom got a degree like way later in her life. And so, you know, they were in the military. They, you know, retired after the military. You know, they settled down, you know, now they work for the government. And to them, that's a successful life. Like, no shade, no tea. Love my mom and daddy, you know, if they listen to me. But I think that there was so much more, but they didn't have anyone to show them that there was so much more. Like the possibility did not exist to them. Their idea of success was making it out. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, when they had those glass ceilings, right? Like there was nothing, you know, after that. Like, this is the success life. You go to work, you know, you retire from the military, you got your ranks in the military, you got disability and retirement checks, and now you work for the government and you're living in a great house in a nice retirement area and got your kids and that's it. But for me, I think there's so much more to life than that. And I wanted to show them that because I don't think that they thought that those possibilities existed. You know, so when I talk about moving to different places or talking about, you know, working at this fancy tech company, that's just like impossible to, like, how did that happen? I will say, you know, along the way, I did have women, you know, in my life who inspired me. So when I think of, you know, Jordan Outing, who was the queen before I was, so she kind of helped mentor me. You know, my Mr. and Miss A&T, when I was a freshman, Catherine Hamlin and Reginald, I cannot think of his last name right now. And then just mentors within my major. We had a professor named Bonnie Davis, and she really gave me, you know, a lot of opportunities in school, just around journalism and mass communication. And so, you know, some of those folks, you know, that served as mentors and really took me under their arm, you know, was inspiring for me throughout my journey as well.
That's great.
Where do you see your future going next?
Girl, I'm trying to be an entertainment reporter. Call me Oprah. What Carisha say? The Black Oprah.
Yes.
I'm trying to be Black Oprah. Yeah, that is my ultimate. So like when you think of like Terrence J, like a few, I don't like to compare myself to other people, but you know, for I guess just labeling purposes, you know, like a female Terrence J kind of thing. Like I just want to be a mogul. As far as, you know, media, marketing, communications. But I want to be that entertainment reporter on TV, honey. I want to be on the TV.
Okay, yes, that's good.
Go to Breakfast Club. They're looking for a new host.
I know. I'm trying. I mean, like every day. I'm like,
yeah, that'd be great. Well,
I have one more question real quick.
No, ask away.
Because I don't think we mentioned anything about being Miss Black Virginia or Miss Black USA. I just had a question. How did you feel when they announced like you were the winner?
I was done. I was done. I think
you feel like it was a difference between when you got crowned Miss A&T and then you're going to like Miss USA, Miss Black USA.
You know, that is a good question. I think being Miss A&T, like being crowned Miss A&T was just like, there are not enough words to describe like what that moment meant for me. And I think, being Miss Black USA was the same. So like, just think about it, like in your adult life, or just getting another, for me, like, you know, reaching that accomplishment on top of like a Miss A&T was just like, I'm not saying it was better, it just was a higher, I don't even know what to call it. Like the high was just higher. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was higher, you know, like it wasn't a better accomplishment. It just was a higher place, I guess. And it just incredible. Like, it's just really it's just not enough words. And I think when I'm not sure if you guys are spiritual, but you know, when you are just in tune with, you know, God, and you know, you're in your word, you're praying, and you know, you're manifesting these things, and you're believing and you're trusting, and you know, it comes true. It's like, wow, like you're real, like God is real. And so yeah, just grateful. Like it's no word to describe like how it felt. Like it just, and you know, I think, you know, a lot of times when you deal with, you know, discouragement and doubt, you know, we all do, you know, imposter syndrome is what we talked about earlier. You know, you get those moments, you know, where you do accomplish something, or you do get that one yes. It's just like, I know I'm doing the right thing. Like, I know God still sees me. You know, it's just those little reminders like, girl, I got you. Calm down. You're doing the most.
Yeah.
You know, he just reminds me like, girl, I got you. You know, you're doing it. I got you. Trust me. You know, and yeah, I think that it was just one of those things, again, just that reminder that he got me, you know, he got my back, and he wants what's best for me. So yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. And we know you have the podcast, Ask Myj, the podcast. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and what we can expect from it? Any type of content that's going to be available on there coming soon?
Yeah. So Ask Myj started because, you know, in my friend group, which is actually crazy because one of my closest friend groups are HBCU queens. All HBCU queens during my year, like they all live in the DC area. And so that's kind of like my tribe here. But it started because we would have like these wine nights, and you know, obviously they're watching all these crazy Love and Hip Hop and Housewives. I don't really watch those shows, but you know, that was a thing, you know, amongst girl groups. And you know, so we, you know, topics would come up, you know, about men and career and dating, just all these things. And so we just, you know, in the living room drinking our wine, watching the show, just bickering about stuff. And you know, in the middle of the conversation, somebody will always say, well, let's ask Myj, you know, let's ask Myj what she think, you know, and it could be about anything, not just about, you know, relationships, but, you know, my friends would call me about salary negotiations and working in tech and, you know, things like that. And I felt like I was getting, and then the mentorship piece of, you know, folks asking me, you know, what they should do after college and resume advice and things like that. So it became this thing of just like, providing advice for just life, like Black women navigating life. Like that was the premises of it. And so, you know, I started adding in pop culture because, you know, a lot of pop culture, internet trends, social media trends really drive the conversation of what we're talking about now, you know, every day. And so that's how the podcast started. So I kind of break it down where in the beginning, I do like a Myj moment. It's just like an inspirational piece of, you know, something that has, you know, happened to me, and I kind of shed light on that and then kind of give some inspiration. Then I kind of dish out my opinions on pop culture, you know, Black culture, you know, Lil Baby cheating, and you know, Kanye acting crazy, and Wendy Williams show can't, like, you know, just all the things. And then at the end, I do a spotlight on a Black woman who's just breaking barriers. So it's called Shine Black Girl Shine. And it's where I just, you know, talk about, you know, some woman who's a first or doing just something incredible in the community. And so, yeah, you know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. You know, every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, what do I want to change today on my podcast? So, yeah, I think right now it's just, you know, continuing to evolve. You know, I'm discovering me through my podcast, right? Like I'm discovering what I love, you know, what I want people to know about me, about my story through my podcast. So we'll see. Ask me again in 2023 and I'll be able to give you a better answer.
Okay, we certainly will. And where can people find your podcast? Is it available on all platforms?
All platforms, yes. It's pretty much everywhere. And my Instagram for my podcast is Ask Myj podcast. And so if you type in Ask Myj on Instagram, my profile will come up and my podcast profile will come up. Got a question? Ask Myj.
Okay.
All right. I like that.
Yes.
Well, we truly do appreciate it. Did you have any questions for us or anything before we wrap up?
Where do you guys want to, I guess, what are your goals for 2023?
That's a good question, because we've done so 2022 has been like a great year, because our goal last year was to get our house. We bought a house in January, so we could check that off. Yes, and then our other goal, we end up getting married in May. So I'm trying to see 2023, what's like huge.
Y'all done it all. Kids.
2022 was a lot.
Oh yeah, kids. Yeah, probably kids, and I'll probably say kids, and then just growing in my career. Eventually I do plan on owning my own school. So right now I'm in corporate America trying to save up, but eventually I do plan on opening my own school.
Good for you. That is amazing.
Thank you. What about you?
It's funny you ask, because it was something that me and my guy friends, we were all discussing just last night. And I agree. I told him, like, hey, I think my goal is to be the best Braxton I can be. And what comes along with that is being the best husband, the best brother, the best friend, the best son. You know, the list goes on to myself and to everyone, but also to focus on planting those seeds to really level up in terms of what I want in life and to really accomplish my goals. So I'm not saying 2023, I want to be a millionaire, but I do want to say in 2023, I want to have the seeds planted so that by 2024 or 2025, I'm in a position and on that path to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's my focus.
That's good. And don't think small now. You never know what could happen. Look at Glorilla.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Yes, that is awesome, y'all. Well, I'm definitely gonna be following y'all journey too.
Okay. Thank you so
We truly do
much.
appreciate it. And as things are continuing, feel free to reach out, let us know what's going on. And we'll definitely do the same. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
15 till forever, there's nobody that's better. You've been with me in the sun and the stormy weather. Want you to have my son.